Happy Masters Week, everyone! We're already at episode 5 of Match Play. I'm so excited, Spence. How's it going? How's Masters Week treating you?
It's been a very busy week. Steffi, I like the hat.
Yes.
We'll let you talk about that a little bit more throughout the show. I don't have my hat in yet. I decided to wear green for Augusta this week. So I have it in a different way than you do, but Masters is obviously probably the most iconic tournament in the world. Really excited to go through this board and talk about some of our favorite wagers. And there's a lot to discuss this week.
There's a lot to discuss this week. I'll let you break into like a very brief course breakdown. This is probably obviously one of the more famous courses. Yeah. Even your average betting and golf fan knows all about Augusta. So I'll let you tell everyone the spiel on Augusta before we get started.
I will try to keep this very short. It won't be one of my long-winded answers here. I mean, I think everything with me becomes a little too long-winded at the end of the day. But, I think the thing about Augusta, and you kind of said it best, it's like, first of all, it's the most iconic course in the world. Second, it does have this really pronounced course history, like more so than we get at any venue. There's going to be these specific corollary trends that the field will have to meet if they want a real chance to take home the title. I would say more so than anything, it's a venue where experience matters heavily. You can see it with the statistical returns that start to indicate that knowledge of the grounds will produce better results. I don't think any of that necessarily eliminates anyone from a DFS pool or, any maybe non-outright wagers here. However, there are these consistent answers that have been highly impactful in trying to locate the winner. I'm not going to go over all of them right now, but I think like the two that would be most important here, or at least the one that would be most important here, is that a first-timer hasn't won this event since Fuzzy Zoeller in 1979. Typically takes a few showings to get accustomed to the undulation of the greens. The other one I was going to say is that only Jack Nicklaus has ever won this above 45 years old. I don't really know how pertinent that is to the data and to the information this week. Like, I can't imagine anybody is rushing to bet a golfer that's not named, like Tiger Woods would be the one example. I don't think people are rushing to the counter to bet Bernard Langer at this point. So, I don't know how relevant that is, but yeah, I mean, we have these consistent corollary trends with the short game. You get an enhancement around the green. 3-putt percentage is obviously going to be important, but it's just one of those venues where experience more so than anything else will matter.
Absolutely. And maybe avoiding some of the more geriatric players in the
Exactly.
We have some of those guys that continue to come back and play. Probably should be on their last leg, but that's okay. Scottie Scheffler won last year. My shirt, I guess the cut. Scottie Scheffler is my dad. It's why I'm not exactly matching, but kind of very on brand here is the betting favorite at plus. I saw it come down on in one of the books to plus 650. What are your feelings on Scottie going into Augusta?
To me, there's more than this amount of players, but there were 7 players to me that I thought created higher tangible win equity. And I mean, that goes without saying, but these were the 7 golfers that I wanted my exposure to in the outright market. So I'll list them all here. I think it's important. This is in no particular order necessarily, but Rory McIlroy, Scottie Scheffler, Jon Rahm. We'll talk about Xander Schauffele, I'm sure, a little bit later. Jason Day, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay. I essentially wanted to build a card that featured at least one of those names, if not my entire card being made up from this list. And I'm not a person, like, this best, Steffi, through this being our 5th episode now. I'm not somebody that massively rushes up to the top of the board to try to create an outright card. I am very conservative in the way that I put my wagers together. Like, I'd rather get my exposure in the placement market or head-to-head wagers or things of that nature. But I think with all the corollary trends that we do have for this tournament, it doesn't make sense to me to try to get cute with this and start just, saying, I'll give some players I like here, but like, Tommy Fleetwood, Siwoo Kim, I want to bet them at 70, 80, 90, 100 to 1. Like, to me, the winner of this is going to be somebody who's 30 to 1 or less. And the more names that I could grab of that mix, even if it meant I was a little bit more overexposed than usual, I would rather go that route than to get stuck kind of building a like lower margin card in exposure, but then like substantially less win equity. So this is as aggressive as you will ever see from me in the outright market. To answer your question, I don't have a ticket on Scottie Scheffler. I went a different route, but I'll let you talk about Scottie Scheffler for a second.
Yes, I regrettably do not have anything on Scottie right now. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to play him because I do think there is a very high chance that he goes back to back. He will join, just a few players that have done that here. It's not something that we see often, but I do think that Scottie is one of those players that can do that. And if he doesn't win this year, I do think we see Scottie win another Masters, if not more than one, in his future. I think he has all the skill in the world to do that. Interestingly enough, I had him here last year, but we were talking plus 1,400, not plus 650, plus 700. So almost double. You were getting double the odds there last year. But I mean, he's in great form. We're seeing him, come in. There's probably been a small dip in his putting, but outside of that, there's not really a lot to complain about. He's actually coming in half a stroke better in strokes gained than he was last year when he won. You look at his past performances, look at his form. It's like T17, T11, win, T12, T4, win, and a fourth. So he's Scottie Scheffler. He's playing like Scottie Scheffler. So I'm interested to see, how are you playing Scottie? And then we'll really dive into like some of these smasher passes for us.
I mean, like, this might be a surprising answer that I'm about to give here, but like when we look at Rory and Scottie in particular, those two golfers, are carrying about 25% of my implied win probability for this tournament. And then if you want to throw Rahm into it, you can add an extra like 10% there. So you have three golfers that are carrying 35% of my implied win probability here. But based off of that answer, I actually think the Scottie price is okay with this. Like, I'm not going to find myself in a position where I'm betting both Scottie and Rory with the way that I built my card, but I went to Rory as my ultimate pick this week. I think like any way that I ran this, specifically with a soft course this go around with it, like you're going to have that distance adding up to him a little bit here. I like, obviously when you look at these books specifically, there's going to be shops that are competing for every last dollar that you can get here. So that's going to be shops that are going to give you boosts. There's going to be shops that increase the number that you're going to get. I think what you see on the surface on some of these prices, like if you're patient and you shop around and you use some of those like notions to your advantage there of like knowing that that's what's going to happen. Look, these cards get vastly different here. So I did bet Rory at 8-1. I had value at that number. I've kind of been recommending this wait for the boost game, see what you can get, see how you can get money down. And I know people that have been able to get Rory at 9-1, 10-1, 11-1. That was my preferred way to play it. But really, no matter how I ran my model this week, the top two players, and kind of like substantially so, with Rahm being the closest in third there, were Scottie and Rory.
Okay, cool. I think, I don't know what it is. I don't know when I started just not being in love with Rory anymore, but at some point over the last couple of weeks, I have just found myself just kind of avoiding him. Like, I think I'm just going to chill on my relationship with Rory for a little bit. I think it's probably since his short game was I think it was the Players was pretty bad. So I don't know what it is. I think people want to see him win a green jacket. I want to see him win a green jacket, but I'm out on him. I'm not out on him because, again, like, he is one of the favorites for a reason. But as far as like my card goes, I'm somewhat avoiding him except for some head-to-head stuff. But before we jump into Smash or Pass, actually, I want to get your take on Tiger Woods. Is it bad that I want to bet Tiger Woods to miss the cut? Am I a horrible person? Where are you going with Tiger Woods? Are you avoiding him? Are you in on him? What's the story?
I think when we talk about Tiger, there's a public bias to him that obviously shifts his price into ranges that are usually not sustainable to long-term success. Like, he becomes a much better fade candidate for those reasons. I kind of like Tiger this week. And I don't know and this isn't to win the tournament. Like, I don't necessarily think that's the case there. And you'd have to shop around to find this price. Like, it's not necessarily on the legal side of the sector here. You can find it at books. I guess I can say the book on here, right?
Yeah.
So you can find it on Bet Online for this particular wager here. But there's a Tiger Woods bet against Sergio Garcia. I tend to think that Sergio is one of the most overrated players in my model this week. I think he gets a lot of, like, obviously we know Tiger's going to get a lot of public support, but in the same breath of that, Sergio gets a lot of credit for his victory a handful of years ago here. And I'm not so sure between the LIV Golf of him. I don't know where he is with his game. And just from a statistical standpoint, I ended up betting Tiger to beat him at minus 103. I saw that number shift all the way up until like the plus 120 zone. It's come back down to the spot where it's minus 110 both ways, but I had proper on that more in the minus 130 zone there. So it doesn't necessarily answer your question on what to do with Tiger. I think that that's a one-off specific bet against a golfer that I'm just completely looking to fade, but I don't know, Steffi. I kind of think Tiger is going to make the cut. I think the negative part of it, and I can let you get into why you did not like him, and it would be the same answer I'd get to Jason Day. It's rainy. It's wet. It's cold. I don't know how those two guys are going to do from a health perspective. And that does worry me ever so slightly of how a lower temperatured Augusta ends up treating Tiger, who we know from a health perspective at any point, like, I mean, his back, his leg, like there's things that can go wrong.
Yeah, I think it's more just this like environmental piece that I am leaning into as well. I think that you look at, I'm trying to see where, you look at to miss the cut, you're really not getting much value on that right now, like plus 163. It's kind of whatever. I'd rather kind of bet him either top 40, top 30, even maybe. I'm not totally out. I will be in Augusta on Friday. I'm looking forward to seeing Tiger. So I want him, he'll be there regardless of when I'm there at least. So maybe if it was Saturday, I feel a little bit differently. But we can jump into some smash or pass. Let's bounce it back and forth, kind of like we did last week. Definitely a few names that I want to run by you, see what you think. I'll let you kick it off again.
So I'm going to start with a golfer, and this is from really any perspective of the market. I'm going to start with him as an outright wager here, though, and you can kind of branch it out from there. And I've seen this number move a little bit at some of these shops, but there was a 29-1 available on him yesterday. I don't know what the best price in the space is now, probably more in like the 25-1 range. I had 22-1 as being proper, but smash or pass, Tony Finau.
Tony Finau, gosh. You know what is so crazy that you said his name is I don't have, I have nothing of Finau on in my research, on my card. I love Tony Finau. I think that everyone hated his outfit last year. I saw a lot of discourse on that. I thought it was very cool. I always love me some Tony Finau. I think, again, like we've talked about this before, I think Tony Finau at some point is going to put himself towards that upper echelon of golfers. I think that he has the skills. He's got to put it together a little bit. Outright, I don't know. I think that number is pretty good. I think that, what did he last year was probably T35, somewhere down there. Is it out of pocket to say he could finish top 20? No, not at all. I'd like to see what you could get on him for a top 40. I think that's definitely something that we see occur. But where are you at with Tony?
Yeah, I think you can even push that into the top 10 market if you want.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been a really big proponent of Tony Finau being legitimately a top 5 player in the world. It might not show on the official world golf rankings. And look, I mean, he's been fine this year. We're looking at a golfer that has been inside the top 25 of all 8 starts that he's had. I think that's the positive thing to it, but it's not this groundbreaking version of Tony Finau that I thought we were going to get. Like, I was projecting him to be this year's version of Scottie Scheffler, to where he wins a major and he wins a bunch of tournaments and he propels himself up to number 1 in the world. And I don't think we're out of the question that can still happen right now. Like, get a win at the Masters and all of a sudden, like, his whole career trajectory changes. And, it's funny, Steffi, like, I don't want to talk too much about this, but we did a draft together from a season-long perspective, and I was really hoping to get Tony Finau, and the only reason why I didn't is because Max Homa fell to me. I think if we're talking about this specific tournament in general, I would rather have Tony Finau than Max Homa from a season-long perspective. That's kind of the range to me where it is. Like, I would say that your best 6 golfers in the world are probably Scottie Scheffler 1, Jon Rahm 2, Rory 3, and then I think you have this really interesting group with Cantlay, Finau, Homa. However you want to put those 3, like, to me, those are the 6 best golfers in the world. And I'm not so sure Tony Finau always gets that respect. Like, he's obviously much lower on the board than most of those names. And we can talk about why Homa's down there this week. I mean, he has not been good at this tournament historically. And I do have some concerns about how he's going to handle the property this week, but I think this is a really good course setup for Finau, who ranks third in my model in expected strokes gained for this property. That would be behind only Rory and Scottie.
Yeah, I love Tony. I think that now I also don't want to miss out on him the week that he does win, because that will be heartbreaking given all the money that I've probably donated
Same here.
because of Tony Finau. But I, again, like I very much think at some point this season he will heat up. We saw him do that last season. I think once he starts putting things a little bit together, we'll see him run away with a bunch of these tournaments. But you mentioned Homa. Back on June 6th, I placed a drunk 1:24 a.m. Masters ticket on Homa, but I got it at 120 to 1. So love that for me if he were to able to put it together. So talk to me on Max Homa. You mentioned him. So smash or pass. You know what? Smash or pass the top 10 plus 250. We don't have to go the outright. Out. Oh my gosh. I can't even talk now. Go. You go.
I think it's because I took Homa from you. You're probably still flustered with that.
I am. I'm upset. And I don't have him in my season long league either. So yes.
I think, and it kind of goes back to what I keep saying. There's a maturation process that you need to go through on this course to actually work your way up the leaderboard. Now, I think the price that you have from an outright perspective is obviously fantastic. I mean, there's no arguing that. I don't know if I necessarily think he's going to win the tournament at the prices that he's at now. Like, I don't think you have value. Obviously, I mean, like the price that you punched in is great, but miscut in 2020, miscut in 2021, 48th here in 2022. Obviously, we have a different perspective of what he is as a player. I think he's much better. Yeah. I actually think too, like from a skill set standpoint, Homa's going to find success at this tournament at some point. Like the first time we see him post a top 30 result, and you could work that up the board. I like legitimately believe that every other iteration of this tournament moving forward, he's a legitimate threat to start winning this thing. I don't think it's going to happen until we finally get him working himself up the leaderboard. But I mean, as a top 10 wager there at plus 250, I don't necessarily have any issues with that. Like when I ran this from an upside perspective, he was 10th overall in my model. So that's an encouraging thing that at some point he puts this together. It's just like for me, like specifically if I'm talking DFS and things like that, I'd probably just rather see him beat me at this point, like until he does it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, again, like you obviously talked about it, but you have to, he has no supporting course history here to look at. I think, also like you said, I think his game does fit this well, but again, like needs to start showing us that he's able to do well at this course. Cause you look at it like driving distance, driver's been a little bit off lately, but creativity, good iron play, on and around the greens. Like Max Homa has been playing really nice complementary golf lately. And I think, one of the things about Augusta is it does require golfers to use every club, if, very close to in their bag. So I think Homa will put it together. I'm not fighting you on that, but we all know I love myself Max Homa. He's playing with Scottie. Very excited that I can see them both together. Looking forward to that. But why don't you throw your next smash or pass at me?
So I'm going to go to like a very similar area that I went last week that I called very gross on the board. And it's probably gross again, maybe grosser this week. But I like Alex Noren. Like, I don't really know how to say it other than that. I know not very many people do. And it's not going to be a wager that's very popular in any regard. Now, he's the one long shot that I did punch a ticket on this week. I took him at 340 to 1. I thought he had that skill set that we saw from Danny Willett in 2016 when he won that event. Now, Spieth had to implode in epic proportions for Willett to actually get across the finish line there. And I think Noren would probably need something similar, and it's a long shot tickets, but I'm not going to ask you about that because I think that's kind of pushing the envelope to begin with. But let's say Alex Noren, and I bet this top 30, top 20, and top 10, but let's go the safer route here. Alex Noren plus 240 to come top 30 smash or pass.
Smash. I think, we talked about this last week, I think it was, but Alex Noren is always someone that, again, like I've been pretty high on him. You've been high on him. I'm all in on that. I can get behind it.
Yeah, I think the skill set that he has sets up really nicely. I know he hasn't found success here historically, which would be like the negative. It's like the same answer in a little bit different aspect here that I would give for Homa. The skill set matches Augusta. We just haven't seen the results from them yet. Once we get a finish that gives you some indication that they can compete here, the ceiling is like through the roof.
Right. Absolutely. This wouldn't be our show if I didn't ask you about this next player. I'm going to think about how I want, what side do I want to go in this? Okay. Mr. Jason Day, obviously, we have to talk about your guy. We hope that the vertigo stays home. He's not someone that has found his way onto my card yet, but I would like him to be there because I think that, we've seen this resurgence that we talk about every single week. Yes, he has a miscut in his last two. I don't really care about that because I think he's one of those players where it's like, we're not really talking about the same Jason Day either. Exactly. This is, this is again, a little bit of a resurgence, the Phoenix coming from the ashes type deal. Let's do Jason Day top 10 smash or pass.
I'm going to say smash. I do have hesitations with the weather here. And yes. And the other thing with Day also is we've at least seen him find success at this tournament before. It's not like I know Max Homa is a different golfer also, but we've never actually seen that occur. Like Day does have top fives at this tournament. So I think that's a positive thing. To me, my favorite way to play Jason Day, I took him, and I think this number is now sitting at minus 110 on FanDuel. I took Jason Day a little bit better than I got plus 102, but minus 110 is fine. Jason Day minus 110 over Cameron Young in a head-to-head wager.
Okay.
That's one of my situations where I'm trying to find an opponent to fade. You're going to have these really nice high-end numbers from Cameron Young in driving distance and total driving and weighted proximity, and all of that's great, but the short game is kind of an unmitigated disaster for him. He nearly came in last place playing this tournament last year. And I kind of trust Paul Tesori, Webb Simpson's former caddy, on his bag now. I think that that's going to get better over the course of time. I just don't know if we're in the spot right now where the short game is going to actually be able to thrive at Augusta. It's only his second appearance. I keep going back to Homa here. He went miscut before finally making it. I could see a very similar trajectory here with Cameron Young, where he goes miscut. And I kind of tend to think that if the injury concerns and the vertigo and hopefully the weather is not a problem with it being cold, that Jason Day is relatively safe if you remove all the negative things I just said there. So that would be my preferred way to play it. But he's top 10 in my model in how I ran it. And this is we're not that far removed of a time where Jason Day would have been nearly dead last in this field. So from a statistical perspective, I feel confident to say that he is borderline Jason Day of old, and at least we're trending back in that direction. And I tend to think at this point right now, he is legitimately a top 10 player in the world.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you on that. I think that also, statistically, like you said, very much supports everything that you just said. Jason Day, if he won, I'd be like, great. His vertigo stayed at bay and you didn't see any of these little issues pop up and he plays the way he's been playing. And it wouldn't be totally shocking either. I think that that's within the realm, but don't think he'll get there quite this year. That's why I lean probably a top 20 or you mentioned these head-to-heads. What else you got for me?
So I'm going to go off the board on a wager that I don't actually have placed right now, but it's a player that, let's keep this open-ended of how you want to answer this. I guess I kind of ask it from a DFS perspective, but take it however you want with this. Corey Connors, smash or pass on him this week?
Okay. I'll be the first to admit, I was fucking out on Corey Connors last week. Listen, that was one of my worst calls that I've had. Fine. I don't care. I'm still fucking out on him either. That's the thing. I was out on him last week. So do with that what you will. He probably is a good play. He's in great form. We know that. But again, like I just expect him, that putter, to at some point be the Corey Connors putter that I expect to be there. And I am just passing on Corey Connors. He will continue to make me look like an idiot. Totally fine.
I think the Valero is a tournament that's obviously where Corey Connors thrives. And you can make the same argument about Augusta. He has 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. I think the one difference here, and it's a weird answer to give for a golfer that just won a tournament, I'm not so sure that his metrics from a skill set standpoint are quite as crisp as we've seen in years past with him. I kind of have some concerns when I ran my numbers for multiple different iterations, like the weighted proximity, not as good as we've normally seen from him coming into this event. The total driving, still good, not as great as we've had in years past with him. Like a lot of that is the lack of distance that he has. Like he's outside the top 35 of my model in this field in both of those ways. I asked the question because I see him like 25% owned at $7,600 on DraftKings. He is the highest owned player right now that I can find. I think that this is everybody taking a win from him and the course history and running way too wild with this. There's so many other spots where I would rather pivot, whether I'm going up or down on the salary scale. So I am like completely out. I don't know what else to say. It doesn't mean that he can't find success, but it's not like, so like, I'll tell you this, Steffi, like, I think this is the best way to explain it. So I don't run a lot of course history in my model, like on a normal week. This week, I ran 30% because of the predictive nature of Augusta. So players that have historically been great here or good here even are going to get massive boosts for me. Even when I ran 30% for him, it thought he was overpriced with what all his numbers were with it. Like that's a very discouraging thing for a golfer when I'm going overweight on an area that should help him and it's not even necessarily doing the way that it should with it. So this is like a massive pass for me. And if he beats me this week, then it's kind of the same answer that you gave. I will tip my cap. I will move on at 25%. No,
here's the thing, not to go on a Corey Connors rant, because again, like I could be very wrong. I said it last week, but again, last week is very much like a great somewhere that he plays very well in a very weak field. This is not a weak field, and I don't think this is a great course fit for him. So I don't think Corey Connors is winning the Masters. I don't think that's happening. So I think that every year, and I did this last year too, and I've done it before, like everyone gets very Corey Connors happy when we see him do well.
And I'm one of them. I'm one of those people.
I do it. 100% I do it. There was a stretch there at one point last year where I was betting him like every single week. And it didn't do much for me either. So I just think it's easy to get, he's like a very likable golfer too. So there's this, people just feel connected to him. But I can say with confidence, I do not think that Corey Connors is winning the Masters. Just doesn't sound right.
No, and I know that's been a very popular pick that I've seen from people as a sleeper call. This isn't necessarily going out on a limb. Like the odds are in my favor by saying this, although he has 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. Sure. I don't think he's coming inside the top 10 either. Like I think it's much more likely that we see some middling performance from him or worse than a top 10 finish. And at the ownership that we're getting, like I'm out. There's other ways to go there.
Yeah, it's a no for me, dog. I think I'm good on that. Like I might, I'd rather go somewhere, and maybe I'll throw another one at you. Although I do want to touch on like Xander and Hovland a little bit at some point, but let's just where are you at? And I don't even know exactly how I want to play this player. Siwoo Kim, smash or pass overall. How are we feeling about Siwoo Kim?
Very in on Siwoo Kim.
I feel very good about this man.
Yeah, I think he's a great DFS play. If we just want to start there at 7,400, that's a number that's way too cheap. If you look at the course history for him, I have this running back right now in front of me until 2018. Every single finish there has come inside the top 40. He has 3 of those finishes inside the top 25.
Yeah.
I think he's been great in 2023 from a metric standpoint. Like, obviously, we've seen the high-end results that he's been able to produce, but even as of recent, I mean, there's a lot of top 25 finishes that he's putting together, and I think the game's in a really good spot. And like, if you were to ask me who is the last realistic golfer that has a chance to win this, it would probably be like a Siwoo Kim, Keith Mitchell sort of answer. I think those are like the last two names that are on that board that at least have some chance to pull this off from down beneath. But yeah, I mean, I don't unfortunately have a wager right now that I have placed on Siwoo that I could say this is the definitive way that I want to play him. I probably lean more towards the safety routes with it, whether that be a head-to-head matchup. And I know people that have bet Siwoo Kim against Mito Pereira. I think that's certainly an option that you can consider. I'm not necessarily high on Mito this week, and my numbers do like Siwoo, but maybe like a head-to-head matchup would be my preferred way to go about this. And, you know, if you can find, I don't even know, unfortunately, what a top 20 number or a top 30 number is on him right now. I can look that up in a second.
Yeah.
But I tend to think that like somewhere in that range seems to be the preferred way.
Yeah, it looks like, you know, looking at top 30 plus 1485 is actually very enticing to me. Yeah. I really like that number. That is probably something that will land right on my card when we get off of this recording. Top 20, looking at plus 260. I also do not hate that at all. Let me throw one more at you before we jump into, I think we should have a discussion about Xander, because I know this is the only thing we've interacted about is Xander. So before we do that, Victor Hovland. Okay. I cannot with confidence do an outright on Hovland. While I think, I don't know. I don't know where I struggle with him. I think that his short game is going to be what it just plagues him here at Augusta. I don't, you know, the putter is going to hold. There's going to be things that hold him back. With that being said, he has not finished worse than T32 here in 3 starts. Top 10, smash or pass. I feel like his name should be Victor Top 10 Hovland. Like, I think that is like his identity and brand in the league.
I like Victor Hovland. Obviously, like, we don't need to get into the short game with him. It's a disaster.
I tried to be so nice about it.
Like, he is outside the top 75 in my model and pretty much any around the green statistic. And I know if you ask him, he's improved. And maybe he has. Like, maybe we do see it in a tournament like this. I think the putter on fast greens are okay. I don't necessarily have a problem there. He's inside the top 35 for me when I ran a weighted putting for that. I kind of agree with you that I don't know if I necessarily think he's going to win the golf tournament, but he's a top 15 player for me in my model. I think if you want to start pushing this into a top 10 zone, that's certainly something that's considerable that you could do there. It's just going to come down to how do his irons work this week? If he's zone, like, it's kind of the answer that I've been giving about some of these players, Steffi, is and it's even the answer about Cam Young. If you are dialed in on the aspects of your game where you're elite to the field, you can find success while having a bad around the green game.
Yes.
It's not like a death sentence that you can't still find success. But if Hovland all of a sudden gets wonky with certain parts of his game and he finds himself in this spot to where everything has to be done around the green, it's going to catch up to him at some point. But I tend to like him this week. Like, he's in my DFS player pool right now. I think he's probably one of the better $8,000 golfers there when you're talking about pivoting and leverage off of some of, like, I mean, I'll use Sungjae Im, who I think is massively underpriced. Like, I don't think that goes like that. That's an obvious answer there, but I'd rather take a half the ownership with Hovland play than to play Sungjae at 25%. So I'm going to say and I don't know if I want to go as far as to say smash with Hovland, but I am in at least to consider any option that's on the table.
You're comfortable with the idea of Hovland.
I'm comfortable with the idea of how anybody wants to play him in really any of the positive ways. Like, I'm not going to have an outright ticket on him, but I can understand the intrigue. If you want to have a top 10 wager, I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I also understand the intrigue with that. Like,
Yeah.
he fits this mold to where I don't have anything negative to say other than the around the green game. And from a DFS perspective, that has gotten so overblown at this point that now nobody wants to play him because of that factor. And that's when I like to jump in and start using these players. So very in for DFS. I'm kind of like fringe everywhere else with it.
Okay. Do you have one more smash or pass for me before I bring up a couple of these hot names I think that we should discuss?
Yeah, I guess I will leave some of the hot names for you then. Because I was going to bring up a few of them, and if you don't, I'll bring them up at some point.
Okay.
But let's bring up one that people seem to be ice cold on, even though he's probably the biggest hothead in the entire tournament. And I talked about him a lot last week. Do you have any thoughts on Tyrrell Hatton for this tournament? Is this just an absolute pass?
I don't think we've talked about this yet on the show. I have a do not bet list. And John Rahm was on there by himself. He was on there just tantrum Rahm. I, since last week, have actually changed that line to the Tantrum Boys. And I have now put them together. So I am out on him, but I totally understand people's perspective. I just can't, under these circumstances, with the weather probably getting pretty shitty, I just feel a loss of composure happening. And when he loses his composure, it's all over for him. So
I don't know the exact words. I don't know the exact words, Steffi, that he used last year, but like, here's the problem to it. He essentially said that he hates the fucking course. Like, this is the worst course that's ever been put together. So
you can't say that.
And that's a problem. I understand that, but because those words came out of his mouth, which is a negative, I understand that. But because those words came out of his mouth, everybody is so out on wanting to use him.
Yes, that's fair.
And I kind of, once again, I hear all of that and it's like, well, let me find a reason to want to play him. Yes. I think the skill set for this course is actually pretty good.
It is the thing.
I don't know. I don't know why he dislikes it so much. I bet him to win this tournament last year. And I've never seen anybody play so badly on the weekend. And I'm surprised he was invited back to Augusta with the way that he treated the course of yelling and screaming and going absolutely ape shit 24/7 with every single shot. I think probably one of the intriguing ways would be from a DFS GPP perspective. I'm kind of in on the idea though at plus 190 to come top 20. I think you're getting a plus number there where you're still betting on a skill set of a golfer that, at least to me, is a realistic top 15 player in the world. And I kind of believe that we've reached the point now because of these comments of him hating the track and his implosion potential and like that whole thing. Yeah, it's a problem, but you know, he can work around it. It's still a nice course setup for him. And if you're going to boost the price, then I am going to bite, but he'll probably end up biting me before this is all said and done.
Yes, probably. I think, and the thing with Hatton, in some, like, similar to Rahm in this sense where, like, obviously, yes, Rahm is one of the top 3 players in the, no matter where you want to put him. This is not a knock on his skill set, but I think the two of them, like, they have all the tools to be able to win. Essentially, Rahm definitely, but like Hatton could win on tour. Like he has everything you need. But I don't know. I don't trust him. I like his group though. I just looked it up. I didn't remember who he was with. He's with Harman and Neiman. I actually think that's a solid group for him to be in. But yeah, I can't do it. Another person on my no bet list.
That is fair.
Cantlay. He's not is Cantlay though, and I want to talk about him. I cannot do it at majors. I just can't do it. I don't know if his face just annoys me, if that's what it is. Like, I think he just pisses me off in general. But you mentioned him in the beginning, so do I have to get in on Cantlay?
I think the price is gross.
It's gross.
We've reached this point, and I think I want to say I had him at 30-1 last year in this tournament. And like, that's what I talked about with you on the first show that we did together. I went on every single Jason Gold podcast for 1 year of all 4 majors. And it was Patrick Cantlay. You have to bet him at these 30-1 numbers. And he was a disaster every single time. And I kind of tend to think that you know, if Rory doesn't win and if Finau doesn't win or if Scottie doesn't win, we're in a spot where Cantlay might pull this off. And that's not an answer that is foreign to me giving, but I don't know. I mean, I understand your like general viewpoint there, though. If you don't want to play him at a sub 20-1 number, I think you can get 20-1 out there if you shop around. Like, I'd probably, if I'm comparing here, rather play Finau at a couple points more, but I don't know, Steffi. I have to be honest. I kind of have this weird feeling that the one time I'm not on him is the time he wins this tournament. And it's going to be very painful when that happens because I like legitimately, like I said, took him at every major last year. And those are not the only 4 majors that I've backed him in. I've done this consistently for 2 years.
Gosh.
If the putter can be better than what we've seen recently, the ball striking from him has been Scottie Scheffler level good in most of these events.
Yeah, he is just, I don't know what it is. Why do I have such a bone to pick with this guy? He's only had one top 5 finish at a major, despite being like having a great like career. I don't know what it is. He just annoys the shit out of me. So I'm not on him. Someone I am that a lot of people are out on, and I guess we could probably lead into doing our overrated, underrated. Okay. And I know I say this every week and I got it. But again, I will not be in when Spieth wins again. Do I think it's coming this week? Probably not. Did I place a bet on him upset after he threw away 2 tournaments already this season? I absolutely did. So he was one of my futures bets. I like the top 5 at plus 360. I think that it's fair to say that Spieth is probably the worst closer on tour. Is that like, I think he might be. Like, you're going to get 3 really good rounds. That one bad round is what's going to end up screwing him by the end. I don't know. How are you feeling about Spieth?
He's magical at Augusta. We'll start there. We know that historically, but I tend to be like, I don't want to say totally out because he is the 12th person in my model, but I'm not going to get there at an outright number. I don't know what price that you got on him.
I got him at, I think I got 20-1 on him.
It's a little bit better than I think you can find at most of these shops right now.
I think he's down to 18-1, 16-1, probably somewhere around there.
I don't know. I mean, if you could tell me he was 30-1, I would be more intrigued. Like, to me, that's a big difference. So I'm not going to be in for an outright.
Yeah, no. I think the books also were kind of disrespecting him for a little bit there. And then he keeps flirting with like almost winning a bunch of these. And now it's like, well, we can't necessarily keep putting him at 40-1 like they've been doing. But yeah, so Spieth is someone to keep in mind. I know, like we talked about, Xander, who I think is picking up a little bit of steam here. I really like Xander this week. Like, I really like him. Where are you at?
I have a problem. Like, there's certain players that I cannot stop betting. And if you look at like historically when I have placed wagers and if I'm able to pull it easily on it, because I actually stopped running this equation of my part of my model because I couldn't actually look at it anymore. There were 2 golfers that I lost so much money on betting them every single week. John Rahm is one of them, but like, I have lost so much money on Xander. It's not even funny. I can't tell you how many times I've taken him in one of these spots where he's in this 20-something-1 range where I think he has value to where he should be like 20-1. And if you want to talk about bad closers, Xander never one time finishes. I've never seen anything like it before. I do think that this is his best tournament from a major perspective. I love his short game. I have an outright wager on him. I punched the ticket and I felt gross as soon as I did it. And that's kind of the Xander Schauffele story that I have had historically with him. I like the wager. I'm not going to talk anybody out of him. I would still recommend him to people. But man, that guy does not win.
Gosh, I know. And I'm ready. Ready for the heartbreak. Once I saw some of the outfits of these guys, I saw Xander's Saturday outfit and I was like, oh man, yeah, you are not winning the Masters. Definitely not a moving day like that. His course history is great right now. His stats are great. He almost won this. What did he put? put the ball in the water, I think. What was that,
I had him
2021?
yep, I had him. I had him
Yep.
during that year. I thought I had a chance. He steamrolled it on Sunday, and I was like, oh my God, Xander's going to pull this off. It's finally going to happen. And no, he choked as soon as it came time to actually win a golf tournament.
And I think on Sunday, we're going to relive that PTSD that he gives us all the time. Again, like the stats are there, everything that you want, total strokes game, blah, 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 blah. You can list them. He's in a good spot. I think he was showing more of his elite form too in match play. Did I have him last week? I don't remember who I picked. But again, I'm just waiting for him to just keep it cool and just finish the tournament. Is it going to happen this week? Probably not. Kind of worried about him off the tee as well here. I think that like off the tee, he kind of sucks, to be honest. Like he doesn't.
He's surprisingly bad.
He's like shockingly like looking at everything. I'm like, everything that you want here is fantastic, and you look at him off the tee, and it's like, I don't know about that. I just don't love the way that looks. But yes, and on Xander, he's someone else that I used my boost on him this week. I'm skeptical when I use it. Actually, when I've been using my boost, I've been doing pretty good this season. Talk to me about an overrated or underrated player for you this week.
Let's get to the overrated section. So Corey Connors will be one of them. Like I'm completely out. I've talked about Sergio Garcia. I'll try to name a player here that I have not mentioned. I guess let's do Brooks Koepka. I want nothing to do with Brooks Koepka this week.
Me neither.
I am pretty much 100% out. And there's different ways that you can find exposure to try to take him on. There's one book in particular where he was plus 333 to miss the cut. We do have a reduced field size, so it's going to be more difficult to actually miss the weekend. But I thought that was a good price. I guess the other honorable mention that I'd like to at least throw out there, because I have had more people write me about this golfer than maybe anybody. And anytime that I've mentioned that I don't want to play him, I have gotten these scathing reviews on my thing. Like what the fuck am I talking about with this? This makes absolutely no sense. I don't want Minwoo Lee this week. Like if he beats me, that's fine. I'm not going to play him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he's someone that has not found his way onto my card. He may not find his way onto my card. Maybe again, could start strong possibly. And then I'm just not, he's someone, I think another player that I'm seeing everyone, and I think you feel similarly. Well, you have in the past. Morikawa. Everyone thinks that is a good price. It's not like you're not getting value there. You're getting him for what is fair. Like, I don't know. He's just, his volatility, like lately, is just not something that is attractive to me. I'm going to continue to be out on him until I'm not. But for right now, like, I don't see him finding his way into a DFS lineup. I don't see him finding his way onto my card. And again, I could be very wrong. And I hope he proves me wrong because I love Colin. I think he is one of my favorite golfers, but he's not someone that I am placing money on right now.
Morikawa burns me every single major. It's the same problem I've had with Koepka. I don't ever play him, and then they win these tournaments, and I have 0% exposure across the board. And a lot of times it goes as far as I will fade them in head-to-head matchups, and they win the tournament. So, like, I understand that. Morikawa's 15th in my model this week. I think you kind of said it best. I technically still believe that he's probably still too low, but if you want to say he's fairly priced, I will go with that, and I will humor you on that because that is at least in the realm of what he should be at the end of the day here. But I don't know. It's like another situation that his irons will need to be really good. I know he had some success here at this tournament last year. I'm not saying that he can't make a run and come top 10 this year. That's fine. But I think from a win equity standpoint, like anytime Morikawa wins a golf tournament, I will never be the one that's on him.
Yeah, it's not going to be me. He's going to make me look stupid one week. It'll be the same thing as Corey Connors, where I'm saying that I am totally out on him. How about you do, I was going to maybe do another overrated, but I don't think it's fair to ever say some of these top guys are overrated. It's more of a fade for me. You will not see me on John Rahm either. I'll say that every single week, but I think that there's there's reasons to be off of him too from a statistical standpoint here. I think that, you know, his strokes game like his short game as a whole has not been as great as you would expect for Rahm. I think that his putter, despite having a good putter for a while, also doesn't look very great. So for me, I'm just out. Strokes gained around the green. You just name it. I'm just not there with Jon Rahm. But I'm not saying he's overrated, because I actually think that people are coming down on him a little bit.
I think if you talk about Rory, Scottie, and Rahm, yes, he would be my last pick of the three, but he is the third choice for me to win this tournament. And if we're talking DFS, if I keep moving it back to there, I would rather play him than any of the $9,000 golfers, maybe any of them. So I am in on Rahm, even if it means I am the least in on him of all those players up in that range.
Yes, I will probably have some DFS exposure to him, but I will not be. Every time I do bet Rahm, here's the thing: like, I just get burnt. Like, he's the one that, like, that 1 week I bet on him, and I'm like, well, this sucks. It's like the 1 week he misses the cut. Like, that's what happens to me. So I am just gonna stay away. Maybe for my other bets, I should place a small one so that he doesn't come in. But give me an underrated guy.
I mean, Steffi, just really quickly to go back to that point, like, I mean, we're talking 10, 15, 20 plus units I have lost on Xander and Jon Rahm historically. Like, that starts adding up, and those are two guys that I can never seem to get right. So I'll agree with you on that with Rahm, even though I do like him this week. From an underrated perspective, though, I think there's a handful of routes we can go here. The first one that I'd like to talk about, or at least a couple players that fall into this sector here, would be the LIV golfers.
Yes, I was going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that are a little bit further down the board, even more so here. So I kind of sort of liked Joaquin Niemann, which is more of the middle there of a player. I think, though, two golfers that if you really want to get gross with this down beneath here, and I don't know if that's a top 40 wager that we're talking about, or if we're talking about trying to get like really cute in DFS, but Harold Varner III.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you just nailed my two guys I was going to bring up.
Yeah, I love him. And then the other one, just to throw another LIV golfer out there, I kind of like Taylor Gooch. We've seen him find success at this tournament. So it's going to be a lot of LIV players for me that I'm going to try to get unique with. I think Keith Mitchell is a legitimate top 20 golfer in the world at this point. Don't know if that's always necessarily thought. I also don't know if this is necessarily the best course fit for him. He's 26th overall for me. I think that's fine, though, to take a shot. And then if you want to get down into the $6,000 section again, and this is somebody that you and Jason managed to steal from me in the draft, Seamus Power. I kind of like him a little bit.
Yes, I do love my Seamus Power. Also could probably get talked into Abe Answer. Have been slowly getting swayed that way. I imagine I'll have a couple DFS builds that do contain him. But speaking of Niemann and Varner, like, it's funny, I labeled this in my notes and was going to do a video on him. Like, I think good guys finish first, but I don't need him to finish first. No. I think that it's very fair if you want to take a top 40, a top 20, even to finish in the top 5 after the first round. Like, I am very in on Varner. He played well here last year. I think Varner is someone who, you know, has consistently remained calm, cool, and collected, even when, you know, he's had people coming at him on Twitter. Like, I just see him being, because this is like good karma. Like, I think he has dealt with everything so appropriately and professionally. I see him doing well here. I think that like a top 30, top 40, like I said, I bet him obviously first round leader, because I have a Harold Varner problem. Before I have my shelves, he's usually behind me. But I think, again, Niemann too, he's another one that played well here. I can get behind him in any way that you really want to. I don't know if I saw anywhere that had like top, like player, like maybe one of those nationality, props I could probably get behind too with him. But I think the LIV players give you like a little advantage, because I know people are heavily avoiding them as well.
Yeah, it's an out of sight, out of mind thing for half the people. And then I think the other half just don't want to play these LIV golfers for whatever their reason is behind it. So I tend to agree with that. I also have a Harold Varner first round leader problem that I seem to go to every tournament. And even from a major perspective last year, I can't tell you how many times I actually put like real money on him. I bet him to win the US Open.
I bet
I
him
believe.
to win like everything.
Yes.
I have bet Varner was my guy. Him and Neiman were both my guys. They were both on my season long last year. I was so hurt because I was planning on actually Neiman being my keeper. And then obviously that was not an option. But Neiman is one of the guys that went to LIV that actually stung because I really like Neiman the player. And I don't think that he was where he could have gotten to. But again, like we don't need to get into the LIV antics. But yeah, I think Neiman and Varner are two sneaky guys that could very much have success here.
I agree with that. And then just to go back to a couple names that I've already mentioned that I believe are underrated. Siwoo Kim, any market that you want to play him in, I'm generally okay. And then, I mean, Alex Noren from an upside perspective in a lot of these markets, like, I don't know if you need to go as strong as I did to be top 10 at 14-1, but like, look, I mean, top 30 at plus 240 is equally as enticing to me and has a much better equity to actually come through with it. So I think those are golfers that in general that we've talked about, Siwoo will be a little bit more popular, but I think those are a lot of names for DFS that we're looking at that most people aren't going to want to go to, whether it's because of a LIV answer or with Noren, like a recent form answer. And I'm kind of over that Noren thing. Like, I thought he looked fine last week, and this is a good course setup for him, even if historically it hasn't shown that.
Yeah, I am very much with you on that. I think, before we get into our who's your daddy for the week, last one, have you looked at any of the top debutante odds at all? Because Taylor Moore really intrigues me there. I like the way that Taylor Moore is playing. I would like to have Taylor Moore involved in like how I'm approaching this week. I don't know if I can get there anywhere else, but I think the odds on him, top debutante, it's like plus 850, plus 700, something along there. So I think it's a good number.
Markets absolutely love him from what I've seen. My model didn't necessarily agree as much with that, but like he was a massive favorite against KH Lee in matchups that I saw at some sharper books. He was a massive favorite against Ryan Fox. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be for me there, but you have support with people that have influential money that have moved a lot of these markets with him. And unfortunately, I haven't done any research yet into that top debutante market. So I don't have an answer to give you there with it. I haven't handicapped that board yet, but I don't know. I mean, you at least have sharp money behind him.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. There's so many ways that you can go about this. I also, before we get into who's your daddy, I should disclose that I do have, these are a bunch of my, like, I need to stop opening my apps when I've had a couple drinks. And one of those involves a free bet that I put on DJ. Must have been really feeling the LIV vibes that night. I'm not entirely sure. So that's another one that's sitting there on my card. And then before we do who's your daddy, there's like 5 spots left in our 7 stakes contest, $5 entry. I'll put the details in the description of the video. Get in there. The winner is $450. So you just answer, there's 7 questions, bunch of odds on a bunch of guys. Get in there and try to beat us. We will give away a hat to the 2nd and 3rd place winners, unless they're Spence and I will move down a little bit, but I'm expecting Spencer and I to one of us to win this. So, who are you going for? Who's your daddy? And did you beat me last week?
I didn't even make the cut.
Major
daddy issues.
I couldn't think of it. Things are rough out there. We need to get right.
Steffi, I cannot believe I did not take Corey Connors. I have taken him at this tournament every single year as my one and done. It probably is.
It's my fault because I talked you out of it. Yeah, that was me. Because I'm surprised the Twitter trolls didn't run out, because that was probably one of my worst calls since I started getting into this golf realm. So where are you going this week?
I'll let you pick first, just to be honorable and give you the first call here.
I'm a little torn, but I think wearing this shirt and just my whole brand, and I thought I was going to save him, I'm going to take Scottie Scheffler. I'm just gonna do it.
Okay.
I think that he is gonna enter. He is going to win. Kaya, my dog, is now apparently excited about that pick.
She's
but yeah,
excited. Yeah,
I'm in on Scottie Scheffler. That's the way we're going. He's my dad, and we're gonna roll with it.
I think from a win equity standpoint, there's two players that stick out above everybody else in the field. You took one of them in Scottie Scheffler. I am going to take the other one in Rory McIlroy. I think this is where he finally captures the career Grand Slam.
Okay.
If it does not happen this year on a wet Augusta course, I'm not so sure it's ever going to happen for him. This is the best opportunity he's had. I look at his short game, and that's usually one of the things that holds him back for why I don't want to take him. 10th this year in 3-putt avoidance. That is a massive statistic for a golfer that's usually outside the top 50 for me. So he's gotten that portion of his game cleaned up heading into the tournament. We know the distance is going to play well for him on a wet course. And when I ran this from a wet course condition, which is like the Rory McIlroy specialty, anytime you get that, number one in my model to win this tournament. So I'm going to fight you there with another very powerful choice. Like, we're both going with two big names there. I am hoping that this is the tournament where Rory wins, and we're talking about $4.5 million, whatever first place actually is.
Maybe.
And then this turns around, and all of a sudden I am in first because I need it right now.
Yeah, you do. It's got to be Scottie again. It's just he's playing too good. There's reasons why we're picking these guys, though, because the top guys win. We know that the best golfers in the world end up winning this event. Be sure to hit that like button. Actually, let's do another hat giveaway. Reply in the comments who your one and done daddy is for this week. We will pick a winner from whoever comments and has the right selection. But any last notes before we go on this Masters week?
I am very excited about this tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think you said it best, Steffi. We can probably realistically condense this board down into a handful of logical choices that are going to win this event. And I'll answer this from a one and done perspective here. This is not where I would go off the rail trying to get like random with a pick here. You're going to want to choose one of these high-end guys. It doesn't mean it needs to be as high-end as Rory or Scottie. I am okay with a Tony Finau. I know that we differ on Patrick Cantlay here. I think even Xander Schauffele makes sense. But you're going to have to stick to that range. This is not where I'd all of a sudden start throwing in random players. Now, I guess the one intriguing thing before we get out of here, and I'll at least ask you the question, and I don't know which way you want to necessarily answer this, but I'll use it as a one and done thing to make this simple. Do you have any intrigue whatsoever of playing a LIV golfer, whether that be Dustin or Cameron Smith for a one and done?
Yeah, I do. I think people are they're putting too much stock in the fact that these players aren't playing competitively. They aren't playing well. I think they also, to play devil's advocate, they could come in really refreshed. Like, I think that they could come in and play some of the better golf that you've seen some of these guys play in quite some time. Cam Smith, I do have first round leader on. I'm not opposed to doing that. Am I going to do that at the Masters? Probably not. I have my drunk DJ bet. But outside of that, I think that, it seems like Smith is very, very popular, which makes me nervous. But yeah, I'm not opposed. I think DFS, you get a nice little leg up there using them until everyone starts thinking the same way. But
yeah, I'm not necessarily reinventing the wheel on this, and I'm sure it's going to be the most popular choice, but I'm in a 2-pick one and done contest. I am right now currently rolling with Rory and Cameron Smith. I think that's kind of just a free square spot that this is the major of the 4 that I'd rather play him at. So I'll save Dustin and probably do the same exact thing at the US Open. That kind of seems like an easy way to keep my player pool very condensed in. And then when I get to these majors, kind of find this unique way to do it, even though it's going to be very popular at the end of the day. But I'm fine with that. If it keeps my player pool a little bit larger in some of these elevated events, that's all the better there.
Yeah. And we might see, it's going to be very interesting to see what the next major looks like after this event, once we see what these LIV guys look like, and then see how the market changes from there. But yeah, not totally out on these LIV guys, and I don't think anyone should be writing them off. But let's get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, enter the contest, and we'll see you next week. Happy Masters Week.